A prominent American defense think tank has issued a report about how NATO should respond to hypothetical Russian attacks on the military alliance within the context of the Ukraine conflict. Let's go through it. The report by the RAND Corporation has laid out several scenarios for a possible Russian attack. According to Scenario A, Moscow would conduct precision strikes in eastern Poland without causing any casualties. Russia would link that attack to NATO's assistance for Kiev. Let's bring up Scenario B. Russia would destroy a US intelligence satellite, also without casualties, but with a risk of creating space debris. Moscow would say the strike was in response to Western intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance support for Ukrainian attacks on Russian forces. Okay, let's go deeper into this. Scenario C. Dozens of casualties are expected after a hypothetical Russian strike on air bases in NATO member states Poland and Romania. Moscow would supposedly claim such attacks were conducted due to NATO support for Kiev. And ultimately, Russia would conduct strikes against several major air and sea ports in Europe, including Ramstein and Rotterdam, which could lead to hundreds of military and civilian casualties. Under that scenario, the reason for those strikes would be self-defense to counter NATO support for Ukrainian attacks on Russian territory. Now, a lot to take in that. We heard from retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Karen Kotowski, who says the RAND report, well, it simply reflects the views of hawks in Washington.
It really is an American-centric type of study that they put together. And it feeds, I think, what probably Americans in the Pentagon are talking about. But it doesn't look to be very well informed. I think it reveals a little bit about how American politicians may be viewing this situation. It's remarkable that there is no discussion of negotiations or diplomacy. There's no discussion of the Russian objectives as they have been widely publicized by Putin himself. I mean, and everyone from him. So it's really, I don't know how useful it is. I think it's useful as a data point. It doesn't seem to be very self-aware and I think very typical of American foreign policy right now. Very just living in its own world.
Well, while the RAND report conspicuously omits peace talks, the U.S. Secretary of State has highlighted Washington's commitment to diplomacy for resolving conflicts.
Our efforts to modernize American diplomacy have been vital and will continue to move our priorities forward in 2023 and beyond. The power of American diplomacy has been used to advance peace and prevent and mitigate conflicts.
It was pretty interesting to hear what Secretary Blinken had to say about what he thinks American foreign policy is doing, because most Americans, I would think, that see that recognize that's not how American foreign policy works, and those are not American foreign policy objectives. We don't seek diplomacy first. We don't seek to reduce conflict. We engage in conflict, and the State Department facilitates that and justifies that. Certainly the Pentagon, lives for that. I mean, the Pentagon is about, the racket of defense arms and activities and projection of force around the world. And that all directly relates to conflict. It promoting conflict and not reducing it.